Well, salam and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are watching from in the world. My name is Rafael B Croft, and I'm going to be introducing our speaker this afternoon. I'm a new member of MACFEST, of the MACFEST team, and I'm talking to you today from Bruchsal in Germany, where the weather is very, very sunny for the first time in a very long time. I'm a teacher trainer in Germany, so I actually teach teachers to teach English. And so I'm a new member of the MACFEST team. This is my first time introducing a panel, but next year, inshallah, I hope to be able to contribute in different ways. So I want to welcome you to MACFEST 2022, and we're thrilled to host our Children's Books Everyday Heroes event as part of our youth festival. And I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to our host for this event, Roxanna Khan. So before we start, do let me share a few words about Roxanna. She's an award-winning author and storyteller who was actually born in Pakistan, but who immigrated to Canada when she was 3 years old. And this is where she lives now with her husband and her family in Toronto. When she was a child, she was sadly, badly bullied. And to cope with this, she turned to books. And now she's actually had 13 books published, and 2 more are being released this year. One of these books, one of the books that she'll be talking about today, The Big Red Lollipop, was chosen in 2013 by the New York Public Library as one of the 100 greatest children's books in the past 100 years. So, and many of her books have been published internationally, so all over the world. She's appeared on television and on radio many times, and she has a YouTube channel, Miss Rukhsana Khan, and she's talked at conferences and festivals all over the world. So before I hand you over to Roxanna, which I think we're all very much looking forward to, I'd like to ask you all to please follow MACFEST on all of our social media sites and to share news about the festival using the wonderful hashtag spread honey, not hate. And as most of our events are free, we do welcome donations. But I'll pass over to Roxanna. She'll be talking for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then at the end, you'll have the opportunity to ask her all the questions that I'm sure you'll have. So thank you very much. And over to you, Roxanna.
Oh, thank you so much, Rafael, for such a lovely introduction. Good morning. Well, here it's morning in Toronto. It's bitterly cold. It's about -11 Celsius. Not sure what that translates to Fahrenheit, but it's bitterly cold, but it's very sunny here in Toronto. Good morning, everybody from Toronto, Canada. My name is Roxanna Khan, and I'm an author and I'm a storyteller. And I designed this presentation because a lot of the ideas for my stories come from the world around me. When I'm noticing certain trends, certain ideas that are circulating in the society, I often use those ideas to inspire me in the stories that I write. And what I notice is the proliferation of superhero movies. Everybody wants to be a superhero. And I remember wanting to be a superhero when I was a kid. I mean, back then we had Spider-Man, we had Batman and stuff like that. And I wanted to be a hero too. And one time I had an interesting conversation with my uncle. And I said to him, I said, you know, if I had $1 million, I would give half of it to the poor people. And if I had $2 million, I would give $1 million to the poor people so that I could be a hero. And my uncle, he said something interesting. He said, well, what if you have $10? Are you going to give half of it to the poor? And I thought, well, no, that's mine. And what good would it do anyways? But actually, it's easier to get 1 million people to give $1 than it is to get one person to give $1 million. And actually what it does, it's actually better for society, because what it does, it actually spreads the goodness around. We all contribute to those who are less fortunate than ourselves. And the other thing I realized when I was thinking about this presentation, I thought, what do these two books that I'm going to share with you have in common? I don't seem to write superhero stories. It's just not in me. I don't write superhero stories. The stories that I write are usually about everyday heroes. These are people who are heroes to the people around them. And just imagine how nice the world would be if everybody was an everyday hero. That is actually something that everyone, including you, has the opportunity and the ability to be. You don't need to have superpowers. Your superpower can be kindness. And so that's what I was thinking about this presentation, because this presentation is actually about everyday heroes. Now, the first story I'm going to share with you is about an everyday hero in Pakistan. And he is a boy. The idea for this story, it's called King for a Day. The idea for this story came from when I went back to visit Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan, but I grew up here in Canada. And I took a trip back to Pakistan in 1991. In that trip, it was mind-blowing. And at one point, me and my father, we were standing on the rooftop in Lahore, which is the city that I was born. And there, the roofs are flat because most of the time it doesn't rain. So we were standing on the rooftop, and it was early spring. And we were eating oranges. And I looked way up in the sky. It was like late January, and I looked way up in the sky, and I saw two kites that were kind of circling each other. And I said to my father, I said, what are they doing? And my father said, oh, they're practicing for Basant. Now, in the springtime in Lahore and many of the cities in Asia, they have a spring kite festival, and it's called Basant. It was featured in like the Kite Runner and stuff. So they go up on their rooftops and they fight with their kites, and they try to cut the kite string of the other person and make it fly away. And if you catch that kite, it belongs to you. And right then I got an idea. In my imagination, I saw a little boy. He was so good at fighting with kites that he was king for a day. And he also happened to be in a wheelchair. Now, so I wrote this story. And the thing is, though, when you look at a picture book is a collaboration. Now, collaboration, that's a big word. It means like a cooperation between many different people. And this one is a collaboration between myself and the illustrator, who happens to also, she's actually from Germany, which is a neat coincidence. Her name is Christiane Kromer, and her name is right here on the cover along with mine. Now, just like when I'm writing a story, I have choices to make in terms of what to call the characters. Everything I do in the story, it's there for a reason. In fact, what I did, here's my character. His name is Malik, and I called him Malik because Malik means king. Okay, in Arabic, Malik means king. And his kite, this is his kite. It's a big, beautiful kite. His kite is called Falcon. And because it's like a bird of prey. So every choice that I make when I'm writing the story, Christiane Kromer also has choices to make when she's illustrating that story. And I'm going to focus a lot on that when I share the story with you. So, King for a Day. Now, this is the first full page spread. This is the beginning of the story. And because Basant is not a festival that's common to everywhere around the world, the first thing I have to do as an author is kind of let the reader know what the rules of the game are. What is this Basant about? So that's what the first page is about. Basant is the most exciting day of the year. With feasts and music and parties, people celebrate the arrival of spring, and many will make their way to the rooftops of Lahore to test their skills in kite flying battles. Now, That's the beginning of my story, the one I wrote. But look at the choices that Christiane Cromer made. Now she's got all of these illustrations of all these people who are like excited, ready for this festival. And you see all these beautiful kites. But what she did in this whole crowd, there's only 3 people that she actually colored in. There's this boy in the front with this big, beautiful kite. There's this boy in the wheelchair. Do you think that's Malik? Yeah, I think that's Malik. And then there's this girl beside him. Okay. So what she's doing as an artist is she's actually kind of shining a spotlight on those 3 people. It's so that the reader focuses on those 3 people. Basically, she's giving you a hint that these 3 people are people to watch out for. They're going to be important in the story. Now, here we begin with the story. There's Malik. There's that girl we saw beside him. And there's another little boy. That's his brother. Now, Malik, because he's in a wheelchair, he's going to need help to be king for a day. And that's what this whole story is about. It's about really what kind of a king he is. Because I know a lot of little boys. I have a son, and when he was a little boy, what little boys want is power. Okay, but what would you do with that power? Would you use it for good or would you use it for harm? Anyway, so Malik is here with his kite, Falcon sitting in his lap. And behind, look at the choices that Christiane Cromer made. She has colored in the people in the back. Okay, they're all colored in. Everybody in this picture is colored in. And in terms of the point of view character, the point of view is basically the character who's telling the story. Now, think the story would be different if the girl was telling it or if this little brother was telling it. But actually, Malik is the point of view character, and he's telling the story, and it's in first person. He says, I'm up early. My brother and sister arrive, still rubbing sleep from their eyes. My brother asks, Malik, is that all you made? My sister says, how can you be king of Basant with only one kite? It's called Falcon. Inshallah, it will be fast enough. Now, inshallah is a phrase that you will hear many times in a Muslim country, because when we say we're going to do something or something is going to happen, we always say inshallah. Inshallah means if God wills, okay? Because if you don't say inshallah and it doesn't happen, it's kind of like you lied. Anyways, so he says, it's called Falcon. Inshallah, it will be fast enough. I send my brother many blocks downwind so he can catch the kites I will set free. Now, one thing I want you to notice in this picture, look at the oranges, okay? I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But look at there's oranges. And here, I think those are some orange blossoms. Okay, they're there for a reason. Everything Christiane put in the book is there for a reason. Now, okay. Remember that boy that was highlighted on the first page who was kind of spotlighted and colored in? That's him. Okay, he's in the story. There's that beautiful kite of his. There's the bully next door. Ha! It's time to make him pay for hitting me and throwing stones at my sister. I'll get back at him with Falcon. The bully shouts at us, calling my sister a bad name. My sister yells right back, but when she turns around, I can see she is hurt inside. Okay, now these are the people who are most important in this story. There's Malik, there's his sister, there's his little brother in the alleyway below waiting to catch some of the kites he sets free, and that's the bully next door. Now, remember what I said about the Christiane Cromer, every choice she makes in terms of the illustrations is actually important. I want you to notice something. Look at the colors of Malik and the colors of the kite. There's a black silhouette of the falcon on the kite. The background is white. There's red splotches. And then there's this very interesting green color. Do you see the same green on Malik's wheelchair? Look at the colors of Malik. He's got white clothes on. He's got black hair. And he's got that same green on his wheelchair. That's significant. Okay, there's a reason why Christiane, she could have made the falcon kite look like anything. She could have made it any color she wanted, but she chose very similar colors to Malik. I want you to think about why. Okay, now the breeze lifts the bully's huge kite. His kite is so big, I nickname it Goliath. It must have cost a fortune. Falcon is small, built for speed. Did you guys know that? Like the big kites are really slow. They just kind of drift. It's the little kites that zip, 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 zip. And by calling the bully's kite Goliath, okay, it's very significant. There's a reason why I called it Goliath, because there's a very old saying. It goes back to the Quran and the Bible. And it's a story called David and Goliath, about a boy who fights a giant named Goliath. So I'm telling the reader, basically, I'm telling the reader, this is a David and Goliath story, okay? Malik is like the David. He's not very strong. He's in a wheelchair, and he has to deal with this bully with his kite. Okay, so Falcon is small, built for speed. I let out enough of my special string for my sister to carry Falcon to the edge of the roof. Don't step on the tails, I cried. Don't rip them, because if she rips the tails, the kite's not going to fly very well. Now, on the count of 3, my sister jumps. I tug on the string. Falcon leaps into the sky. I'm ready to attack. I work my string, dipping Falcon so it circles Goliath. Because it is so big, Goliath is slow. My kite string rubs the bully's kite string. Snip! I have sliced it. Ha ha! Goliath flies free, and the bully's string drops from the sky like a fishing line with nothing on the hook. Okay, he just beat him. Okay, he just beat the bully. The bully picks up his other kite, a smaller, faster kite. He gets it climbing on the rising currents of air until it's almost as high as Falcon. I take a deep breath, bracing myself. The bully's kite circles, trying to trap Falcon. I move away, watching closely for the next attack. The bully pulls his kite left. Quickly, I pull down as hard as I can, sending Falcon into a steep dive. Let up, Malik, my sister yells, you're going to crash. Just before Falcon hits the rooftop, I pull it up and around several times, snagging the bully's string so he cannot get it free. I reel in the bully's kite so my sister can grab it. The bully's done. He has no more kites. He storms downstairs. Okay, so he just beat the bully twice. I move on to other kites. It's easy for Falcon to pluck them from the sky as if it really is a bird of prey. Now, again, remember that Christiane Kromer has choices on how to illustrate the pictures. In this illustration, she could have colored all these kids in. She's got all these kids playing with their kites. The only thing she colored in were the kites. She did not color in the kids. Think about what she's doing. Why is she doing that? Because there's symbols in the story, like David and Goliath, but there's also symbols in the picture. In a picture book, it's a collaboration. The art helps tell the story, okay? Now look at this picture. It's a beautiful, sumptuous picture. This is him in the middle of the day. He's flying the kites, all these kites in the sky. Big kites, little kites, fancy and plain, even kites made of old newspapers. Sometimes I catch them in groups, making wide circles around clusters of kites. Falcon slashes through their strings. For a while, the kites fly where the wind carries them. When they land, they'll belong to whoever finds them, but at least they will have tasted freedom. Inshallah, I really am king of Basant today. Now, again, look at this picture and the choices that Christiane Kromer made. The only person who's colored in this whole picture is Malik. He's colored in. You see the silhouettes of other people on their rooftops, but they are not colored in. And especially pay attention to this paragraph right here. For a while, the kites fly where the wind carries them. When they land, they'll belong to whoever finds them, but at least they will have tasted freedom. Think about that. I wrote that paragraph very deliberately. Okay, I really wrote it deliberately because what it's going to do, that paragraph is actually mirroring, it's reflecting the whole story. Okay, I want you to think about that. I'll come back to it. Throughout the day, my brother brings some of the kites I have freed up to the roof. Among them is Goliath. My sister stacks them in a pile. See there, you see Goliath peeking out. in the pile of kites. Sometimes loose kites float close enough for me to catch. Falcon tangles their string and I draw them in. My sister catches them too. She uses a long bamboo pole topped with thorns. If I am king, she is queen of the sun. Now, for children, I want children to look at how Malik is behaving as king. He's not saying, hey, I'm the king, I'm everything. No, look at how he's actually sharing the power. He's saying, look, if I'm king, then my sister, she's got to be the queen of the sun, okay? And in this picture, you can really see the kite and Malik. Look at the colors of the kite. Black with red splotches, white background, and that green. And that green, white, and black. Basically, what Christiane Cromer is doing by using the same colors of the kite as Malik is she is letting the reader know that the falcon kite is Malik and Malik is the kite. She is putting them together so that the reader can see that really the kite goes where Malik cannot go. Okay, he's stuck in the wheelchair, but with the kite, he soars all through the day. He flies. But remember what that paragraph said about how eventually the kites, right here, for a while the kites fly where the wind carries them. When they land, they'll belong to whoever finds them, but at least they will have tasted freedom. It's basically telling you what Malik's journey in the story is going to be. Okay, he's got to land. Eventually, he's going to land. At the end of the day, we have a big pile of kites. I choose the two that I want. Then my brother and sister get their picks. After they have chosen, they start back downstairs. My sister says, Malik, you coming? Not yet. The sun is setting on a magnificent day. I want to stay up here to watch, to feel the cool breeze. I want to make my day last a little longer. Now, I love this picture. And I asked the Christiane Cromer, the artist, I said, how did you get the ideas for the pictures? And she said, you know, Roxana, I heard that story of you and your dad on the rooftop eating oranges. So I decided I was going to put a lot of orange in this book. And look at the whole sky is orange. And the sun looks like a big fat orange. And what she did, and this is so cool, what Christiane did, she said, you know, I started researching Lahore. And what she did, she went to Google Earth. She found a rooftop in Lahore. And she set this story on a particular rooftop. And Google has a thing called Street View, where you can see what you would see on that in that position. And this is actually the skyline that you would see. These are the houses and buildings you would see if you were on this rooftop. In the background, this thing here is one of the most amazing landmarks of Lahore. It's the Badshahi Masjid. It's about 400 years old. No, actually probably more than that now. It's probably about 500 years old. But she did so much research. But also, again, look in the background. None of the people are colored in, okay? Only Malik, his brother and sister are colored in. That's another choice she made. Now, suddenly, I hear yelling from below. The bully pushes a young girl to the ground. Then he grabs her kite and runs into his house. The girl gets to her feet. Sobbing, she heads down the alley, trailing the kite string behind her. Something makes me pick up Goliath and drop it over the side of the roof. It floats, slicing the air side to side to land close beside her. Now look what he did. This is actually where Malik proves that he's actually an everyday hero. He didn't have to give her the bully's best kite, okay? So he drops the bully takes the girl's kite, so he gives the girl the bully's best kite, Goliath. The crying stops. The girl picks up Goliath. I duck just as she looks up to see where it came from. When I look again, she's dancing along. Then she rounds the corner. She's gone. Now, why did he duck? There's a reason why Malik ducks. And I ask a lot of the kids when I'm doing the presentation, I ask kids, why do you think he ducks? Look, the reason he ducks is because there's a saying, and it's in the Bible and it's in the Quran. The saying is that when you give charity, the left hand shouldn't know how much the right hand gave. So when you're giving charity, if you do it secretly, it's the best way to do it, because then it's not about, oh, look how nice I am. No, it's not about credit. It's not about anything like that. It's just about doing something nice. And him giving that little girl the bully's kite is like an act of charity. Okay. And he wants to do it. He wants to do it anonymously. He doesn't want any credit. He doesn't want her to know he's the one who gave it to her. So he does it anonymously. He really is an everyday hero. Okay, so when I look again, she's dancing along. Then she rounds the corner. She's gone. One by one, the stars come out till they shine down like a million jeweled kites. My day is done. I am no longer king of the sun. It's time to go downstairs and join my brother and sister. We have many stories to tell of Falcon's triumphs. And tomorrow, I will start designing a new kite, an even better kite, for next Basant, when inshallah, I will be king again. Now, this is the end of the story. And look in this picture. All the people in the background are all colored in. Now, at the beginning of the story, they're colored in. Let me show you the beginning of the story again. They're all colored in here. Once he starts flying the kite, the people in the background are not colored in. They're not colored in here. Okay, they're not colored in here. And at the end, they're colored in. That's because Malik has had his day, like the kites. For the whole day, he flew where the wind carried him, and then he has landed. He's gone back to normal. So what Christian did, and this is brilliant, when he's normal, when he's not king, everybody's colored in. But when he's king for a day, when he's king, the time that he's actually flying the kite, they are not colored in. He is the only one colored in, okay, most of the time. So what she's doing with pictures is she's helping to tell the story. And if you look carefully at the art, you will get it. So it takes a bit of real examination to see where the story really is coming from. And really he is an everyday hero. He's absolutely an everyday hero. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the second story with you. And this is the one that's the most famous, okay? It's based on a true story. So when I'm getting stories, when I'm getting inspiration for stories, I get it from 3 different sources. It's from something I see. Sometimes I get an idea from something I see. Sometimes it's from something I hear. Or sometimes I get an idea from something that happens to me. I've actually gotten ideas from all 3 means. And Big Red Lollipop, which is my most famous story, it actually won. There are 2 awards in America. Now, in America, they have thousands of picture books that are produced every year. There are only 2 awards for the best picture book story. And Big Red Lollipop won both of them. Okay, the year it came out, it won both of them. And it's based on a true story. And it's based on a story that really happened to me. Now, what I'm going to do to show you about point of view, first, I'm going to share my point of view of the story, and then I'm going to share the actual book, which is from a different point of view. When you're a writer and you're trying to write a story, it really is important to think about who the point of view character should be, because that's going to make all the difference. Okay, and for 10 years, I was telling this story from my point of view, and it's a very funny story. I actually called the story my no-brainer crowd pleaser, because no matter where I went in the world, the audiences, because I'm a storyteller, the audiences would be laughing from 3 years old all the way to the grandparents. They would all be laughing at Big Red Lollipop. And I thought this should become a picture book. It's a really good story. It should become a picture book. For 10 years, I was telling that story. And then I made the change in the point of view character that turned this into my most famous book. Now, first I'm going to share you my point of view. This story really happened, and it happened to me. Now, remember, Rafael told you that I came to Canada when I was 3 years old. So I was born in Pakistan, but I came to Canada when I was 3 years old. And when I first came to Canada, I had a big sister and I had a baby sister. My baby sister, she was just a baby. But my big sister, I'm going to call her Rabina, and she was in grade 1. Now, her name was really Bushra, but I'm going to call her Rabina, and I'm going to tell you why after. So she was in grade 1. Now, one day, Rabina came running home from school, waving a piece of paper. And she said, Ami, I've been invited to a birthday party. There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream. Can I go? In Pakistan, we call her mother. And I heard that. I was only 3 years old. I never got to go anywhere. I saw games and toys, cake and ice cream. So I started screaming, I want to go too. I want to go too. I want to go too. And Rabina said, I can't take her. She's not invited. And my mom said, what's a birthday party? Because back then we never did that in Pakistan. And Rabina said, it's when they celebrate the day they were born. And my mom said, why do they do that? They just do. Can I go? There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream. And I heard that again, and I started screaming, I want to go too, I want to go too, I want to go too. And Rabina said, I can't take Roxana. She's not invited. And my mom said, why not? Because in Pakistan, if you invite one kid, you have to invite the whole family. And Rabina said, but they don't do that here. Here, only the kid is supposed to go. And my mom said, well, that's not fair. You call up your friend and you ask her if you can bring your little sister Roxana, or else you can't go. And Rabina said, no, mommy, please. They're going to laugh at me. They'll never invite me to another party again. She begged and pleaded, but my mom wouldn't listen. So she had no choice. She had to call up her friend. And she said, can I bring my little sister Roxana? And her friend said, okay. So I got to go to the party. Now, the day of the party came, I was more excited than Rabina. We went. There were games and toys, cake and ice cream. And on the way home, that nice lady, she handed out those little bags. Loot bags. And I opened up my loot bag to see what there was inside. And there were some chocolates and some candies. And there was a ruby ring. And there was a whistle. And there was a big red lollipop. You know the kind you can look through and everything looks red? Well, on the way home in the car, I ate mine up. It was so good. Cherry, my favorite. But Rabina, she saved hers for later. Now, by the time it was time to go to bed that night, all my chocolates and candies were all gone. The ruby in my ring was missing, and my whistle was broken. I had nothing left, but Rabina still had her big red lollipop. She stuck it in a paper plate, and she put it on the top shelf of the fridge to have in the morning. Now, the next morning was Saturday. Guess who woke up first? Me. And the first thing I did was I went in and turned on the TV to watch some cartoons. Then I went to the fridge to see what there was to eat. And what do I see? The big red lollipop. And I thought, oh, it's not mine. I shouldn't. I won't. I grabbed an apple. At least it was red too. And I went and I sat down and ate my apple. But that's not what I really wanted. All I could think of was that big red lollipop. And I thought, let me just go back and look at it again. That's not going to hurt, right? So I went back and I looked at it again. And my mouth started to water. I could just taste it. Cherry, my favorite. I thought, no, I shouldn't. I won't. I went back and I sat down to watch cartoons. And I really, really tried to watch cartoons. But a funny thing happened. Bugs Bunny started looking like a big red lollipop. And Porky Pig started looking like a big red lollipop. All I could think of was that big red lollipop. And I thought, let me just go back and look at it again. That's not going to hurt, right? So I went back and I looked at it again. And this time I saw something. I don't know how I missed it. You know, lollipops are supposed to be round. Well, Rabina's lollipop wasn't perfectly round. There was a bump on the side. It was huge. It was that big. Can you guys see that? It was that big. And I thought, wait a minute. They gave Rabina a bumpy lollipop. It's defective. I should fix it for her. I should make it nice and smooth. She's not going to want a bumpy lollipop. And maybe I'll just eat the bump because it doesn't belong there anyways. But I won't eat anymore. So I grabbed hold of the bump. And I squeezed and I pushed. But you know how hard those lollipops are. That bump wouldn't budge. So I had to grab a little bit more. And I squeezed and I pushed. And finally I broke off the bump. But unfortunately, the rest of the lollipop shattered into a million pieces. And all that was left was a triangle stuck to the stick. And I thought, oh no, I broke Rubina's lollipop. What am I going to do? She's going to hit me. And then I heard a teeny tiny little voice in my head. Do you guys ever hear a teeny tiny little voice in your head? Well, I do. And sometimes it tells me to do things. And sometimes it tells me to do naughty things. It sounds like this. Roxana, it knows my name. And it said to me, Roxana, you know, you're already in so much trouble. Rabina's already going to hit you. You might as well eat that bump you broke off. It didn't belong there anyways. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. The bump didn't belong there. I might as well. So I found the bump and I ate it. Oh, it was so good. Cherry, my favorite. And then the voice said, Roxana, you know, there's so many pieces of lollipop in that plate. Rabina's not going to know if you take another piece. You're already in so much trouble. You can't get into any more trouble than you're already in. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. There's so many pieces of lollipop. She's not going to know if I take another piece. I might as well. So I took another piece. Oh, it was so good. Cherry, my favorite. And then the voice said, Roxana, go ahead. Have another. So I took another piece. And another piece. And another piece. Uh-oh. Now there are only 6 pieces of lollipop left in the plate. And I thought, oh no, Rabina's going to know that those 6 pieces of lollipop don't add up to her Big Red Lollipop. She's going to know that not only did I break it, I ate some of her Big Red Lollipop. I thought, oh no, now she's really going to hit me. I thought I couldn't get into any more trouble. Now I'm in even more trouble. And then I remembered something my mom always told me. Did your mom ever tell you this? My mom always said, Roxana, if you see a mess lying on the floor, don't wait for me to tell you to clean it up. Do a good deed. Clean it up without being told. Did your mom ever tell you that? My mom said, if you see some bits of paper lying on the floor or some piece of crayon, do something nice. Clean them up without being told. And you know what I thought? Those 6 pieces of lollipop in that plate. They look kind of messy. And I thought, maybe I'll just clean those up too. Then I promise I won't eat anymore. So I ate those 6 pieces too. Now, all that was left was the triangle stuck to the stick. And that's when I thought, no siree. That's Rabina's and I'm not touching it. And you know what? I felt very proud of myself. I thought, good girl, you didn't eat the triangle. Technically, it's still a lollipop. And I went and I sat down to watch cartoons. And no matter how much I wanted that triangle too, because I wanted it to, I thought, nope, that's Rubina's. I'm not touching it. Now, pretty soon, guess who woke up? Rabina. And I went to hide, but I was only 3 years old. And there was only one place I used to always hide. Whenever we played hide and go seek, I used to always hide in the front door closet because you can go behind the coats and boots. It looks like you're not even there. So I went and I hid and I heard Rabina come out. And the first thing she did was she went to the fridge to check on her Big Red Lollipop that wasn't so big anymore. And I heard the fridge door open. It went creak. And I listened and I listened. And at first I heard silence, not a sound. Then I heard something I had never heard before in my life. I heard Rabina roar like a bull. I was scared. I never heard her roar before. And she came stomping right to that closet. She knew I was hiding because that's where I always hid. And she threw open the closet door and she pushed aside the coats and boots. And she looked at me like this. And she said, really quietly, she said, I'm going to hit you. And the chase began through the living room, the dining room, kitchen, ran around, faster, faster, faster. Me yelling at the top of my lungs, Yummy, help, help, Yummy, help. And my mom came out of the bedroom and she was rubbing her eyes. She said, what's going on out here? And I ran behind her. I said, Rabina's trying to hit me. And Rabina had to stop in front of my mom. And my mom looked at her like this. And she said, are you trying to hit your little sister again? And Rabina said, she ate my lollipop, the greedy thing. She ate it, she ate it, she ate it. I thought, ooh, I hope I don't get into trouble. But my mom just looked at her like this and she said, for shame. It's just a lollipop. Can't you share with your little sister? And I thought, yes, I'm not going to get in trouble. But poor Rabina, she looked so sad. I felt sorry for her. So you know what I did? I ran to the fridge and I brought her the triangle. I said, look, look, I ate all of it. I left the triangle for you. And my mom said, see, Roxana didn't eat all of your lollipop. Look at that. She left the triangle for you. She's sharing with you. Go ahead, take the triangle. So Rabina had to take the triangle. And my mom said, go ahead, eat the triangle. But Rabina was so mad. Before she had a big red lollipop. Now she just had a skinny little triangle. So you know what she did? She took that skinny little triangle and she threw it across the room and it skittered under the sofa. And I thought, okay, she doesn't want that either. So I went under the sofa, I washed it up and I ate that too. Now, poor Rabina, you know what the saddest thing was? All her friends at school, they warned each other. They said, don't invite Rabina to your birthday party because if you do, she's going to bring her bratty little sister Roxana with her. So don't invite her. So she didn't get any birthday invitations for a really long time. Let's all say, oh. Now, you know what happened? Time passed. And I grew up a little bit. And you know who else grew up a little bit? My baby sister, Mariam. Remember I told you I have a baby sister? Well, she grew up a little bit too. And if I was a brat, and I'll admit it, I was a brat. My baby sister, Mariam, she was a monster brat. All she had to do was squeak and she got what she wanted. Oh, it was disgusting. I couldn't wait to go to school just to get away from my baby sister, Mariam. Now, one day when I was in kindergarten, I came running home from school waving a piece of paper. I said, Help me, I've been invited to a birthday party. There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream. Can I go? And my bratty little sister, Mariam, she started screaming 3 times. I want to go too. I want to go too. I want to go too. And I said, oh, I can't take her. She's not invited. And my mom said, well, it's only fair. You got to go to Rabina's friend's party. Now she's going to get to go to your friend's party. I said, no, mommy, please. They're going to laugh at me. They'll never invite me to another party again. I begged and pleaded, but my mom wouldn't listen. And all that time that I was begging and pleading, my sister was standing on the side and she was just watching. And you know what she did? She really did this. She really was an everyday hero. She went up to my mom and she tapped her on the shoulder and she said, I'm me. And my mom said, what? She said, don't make Roxana take baby Mariam to that birthday party. And my mom said, no. And she said, no, don't make her take her. And my mom said, okay. So I didn't have to take baby Mariam. I got to go to the party all by myself. There were games and toys, cake and ice cream. And on the way home, that nice lady, she handed out those little bags, loot bags. And I opened up my loot bag to see what there was inside. And I was really, really hoping there'd be a big red lollipop. But there was no big red lollipop. But there was a big green lollipop in there. Ooh, it looked so good. Lemon limey, my favorite. And I thought, no, I shouldn't. I shouldn't. I won't. I took that big green lollipop home. And before I could change my mind, I marched right up to Rabina's room and I knocked on the door. And Rabina opened the door and said, what do you want? And I said, here, this is for you. And after that, we were friends. The end. Now, I was telling that story for 10 years and none of the publishers would take it. They just wouldn't. They didn't. Nope. And finally, I sent it to one of my publishers and the lady there, the editor, she said, Roxana, I really like the story, but why don't you let Rabina tell the story and let her be the point of view character because she's a lot more sympathetic. And sympathetic means that we like her. We feel sorry for her. She's actually the hero of the story. I'm actually the bad guy. So you know what I did? I rewrote the story in 15 minutes. I changed the point of view. I pretended to be Rabina, my older sister. And I rewrote the story, and that's the story that became my most famous story. It's called Big Red Lollipop. Now, let me share it with you. Now, it became Big Red Lollipop. Now, the artist for Big Red Lollipop is the incredible Sophie Blackall. She's from Australia. She moved to America and she became a children's book illustrator. And the thing is, Sophie Blackall, she has won the top prize for illustration twice. Not for Big Red Lollipop, for two other books. But oh, I thought she was going to win for Big Red Lollipop. She is amazing. And the illustrations that she did are just fantastic. They make the story. This is not me on the cover, okay? This is Robina, because she's the point of view. She's the one telling the story. I am in the story. And what I did was I kind of gave the reader a hint who I am in the story. But apparently a lot of people didn't figure it out. Okay, Big Red Lollipop. So watch how the story is actually a little different, even though the same things happen. The point of view character is different. Okay, I'm the bad guy and she's the hero, so she's telling the story. And the first sentence is, I'm so excited, I run all the way home from school. I've been invited to a birthday party. There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream. Can I go? Sana screams, I want to go too. Ami says, what's a birthday party? It's when they celebrate the day they were born. Why do they do that? They just do. Can I go? Now, I gave the reader a hint that my name is Rukhsana, or Rukhsana. And I took off the Rook and I'm Sana in this story. Sana is in my name, but nobody figured that out, hardly anybody. Okay, so I am Sana, I'm this one right there. And remember, I'm telling the story, okay? So why do they do that? They just do. Can I go? Sana screams, I want to go too. I can't take her, she's not invited. Why not, says Ami. They don't do that here. Ami says, well, that's not fair. You call up your friend and ask if you can bring Sana or else you can't go. But Ami, they'll laugh at me. They'll never invite me to the party again. Sana screams, I want to go too. Now, also look at the illustration choices that Sophie Blackall made. The mother is dressed in traditional Pakistani clothes because she's from a Pakistani background. Her culture is different. This is actually a story about different cultures too. And the girls, the kids, are dressed in more normal Western clothes, okay, normal, okay. So I say, so Rabina says, look, Sana, one day you'll get invited to your own friends' parties. Wouldn't you like that better? No, I want to go now. I beg and plead, but Ami won't listen. I have no choice. I have to call. Sally says all right, but it doesn't sound all right. I know she thinks I'm weird. At the party, I'm the only one who brought her little sister. Sana has to win all the games, and when she falls down during musical chairs, she cries like a baby. Now, the thing is, I really did that. Okay. I really did behave atrociously at the party. I wanted to win all I was only 3 years old. I wanted to win all the games. And when I fell down during musical chairs, I cried like a baby. So, but the thing is, when I was telling you my point of view story, I left that out. Why did I leave that out? I left it out because, okay, for children, because when people are telling you their story, they leave things out that are embarrassing. Haven't you ever done that? I mean, one time I was fighting with my little brother and he hit me. So I ran to my mom. I said, Ami, my brother hit me. But I didn't tell my mom that I pinched him first, okay? So we tend to leave out things that are embarrassing. So I actually behaved that way. I left it out of my story. But when I went back to tell the story from Rabina's point of view, I had to put it back in because Rabina would definitely remark on how I behaved at the party. So by writing the story through Rabina's point of view, I actually have to look at my behavior, and that requires something called insight. You have to look at your behavior how you really are. And it's not always easy because sometimes we don't behave our best. Okay, so I had to put it back in. That is her perspective. She would talk about it. Now, before we leave the party, Sally's mom gives us little bags. Inside there are chocolates and candies, a whistle, a ruby ring, and a big red lollipop. Sana eats her big red lollipop on the way home in the car. I saved mine for later. Now, this part is kind of interesting. Remember, it's me, Sana, pretending to be Rabina, talking about me, Sana. Okay. This is Rubina talking. Sana doesn't know how to make things last. By bedtime, her candies are all gone, her whistle is broken, and the ruby in her ring is missing. I put my big red lollipop on the top shelf of the fridge to have in the morning. All night I dream about how good it will taste. So I'm building it up. I'm building it up. In the morning, I get up early to have it. Sana's already up. When she sees me, she runs away. I open the fridge door. All that's left of my lollipop is a triangle stuck to a stick. Sana! Now, what big part of my point of view story did I have to leave out of Rubina's? And it actually makes me a little bit redeemable. It makes me look a little bit better. The whole part when I was watching cartoons and eating her lollipop, little by little, I had to leave out of Rubina's story because she was sleeping. She didn't know. Plus, she wouldn't care, okay? If you wake up and you're waiting to have this lollipop and all you see is a triangle stick, you wouldn't care that your little sister really did try not to eat it, okay? So that whole part, I had to leave it out, okay, because she was sleeping. So when you're writing a story from a certain point of view, you have to stick to only what that character knows about and what they would talk about. You can't put in other things that might absolve you of guilty, okay? You have to stick to only what she would see, okay? Now, I hear a sound in the front hall closet. I should have known. That's where she always hides. I shove aside the coats and boots. I'm gonna get you. Quick as a rat, she scoots through my legs and runs around and around the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, yelling, "Ami, Ami, help, help!" Now, this was a little bit tough for me to write. Quick as a rat. Rubina just compared me, Sana, to a rat. Am I a rat? No, I was just a naughty little girl. But that's how Rubina would feel, okay? She would feel like I'm a rat, okay? So another thing is when you're writing from another point of view, you have to be honest. Let the characters say what they feel, even if it makes you look bad, okay? You have to be honest. So I had to say, yeah, quick, I compared myself to a rat. Quick as a rat, she scoots through my legs and runs around and around the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, yelling, "Ami, Ami, help, help." Ami comes out rubbing her eyes. Sana runs behind Ami where I can't get her. "What's going on out here?" says Ami. Sana says, "Rubina's trying to get me." Ami puts her hands on her hips. "Are you trying to get your little sister again?" "She ate my lollipop, the greedy thing. She ate it." Ami says, "For shame, it's just a lollipop. Can't you share with your little sister?" I want to cry, but I don't. But you see how the same things are happening in both of the stories, in my point of view story and in Rubina's point of view story. The plot is the same. The plot is actually the same. The things that are happening are the same, but the story is completely different. Okay, now. Asana runs to the fridge and brings back the triangle stuck to the stick. "Look, I didn't eat all of your lollipop. I left the triangle for you." "See," says Lemmy, "she didn't eat all of it. She's sharing with you. Go ahead, take the triangle." So I have to take it. Go ahead, eat the triangle, but I don't. With all my might, I throw it across the room. It skitters under the sofa. Sana scurries after it and eats that too. Now, look at this picture here. This picture here is probably the funniest picture in the whole book. When I saw this picture, I thought, my goodness, Sophie Blackhall is amazing. She is incredible. This picture is so funny. Look at there, Ami is looking at Rubina. Sana is looking at Rubina. Who is Rubina looking at? Who is she looking at? She's looking at you, the reader. She's got the triangle stuck to this. And it's like she said, "Do you see this? Do you see how unfair this is?" Oh, brilliant. She's so brilliant. She's amazing. Okay. So Sana scurries after and eats that too. The worst thing is that all the girls at school know if they invite me to their birthday parties, I have to bring Sana. I don't get any invitations for a really long time. I mean, look at the expression on Rubina's face. Poor thing. Oh my goodness, poor thing. We really feel for her. Then one day, Sana comes home waving an invitation. "Ami, I've been invited to a birthday party. There's going to be games and toys, cake and ice cream. Can I go?" Our little sister Mariam screams, "I want to go too." Sana says, "No, I can't take her. She's not invited." Now, in this picture, you can see the time has passed. because the baby in the beginning is not a baby anymore. She's like a toddler. And Sana looks more grown up too. So you can see the time has passed. The time element, the years between the beginning of the story and the resolution, it's much better in the book than in my point of view story. Okay, so Sana says, no, I can't take her. She's not invited. Ami says, well, it's only fair. You went to Rabina's friend's party. Now Rabina and Mariam can go to your friend's party. I say, leave me out of it. Ami says, fine then. You have to take Mariam. Now it's Sana's turn to beg and plead. Ami won't listen. Sana's begging so hard she's crying, but still Ami won't listen. Now, guys, this is the moment. This is the moment that Rabina proves that she is an everyday hero. She doesn't have to do anything. She's got her revenge right in front of her, okay? But she doesn't do that. And my sister really didn't do that. She did this. Rabina says, I could just watch Sana have to take Mariam. I could just let her make a fool of herself at that party. I could just let her not be invited to any more parties. But something makes me tap Ami on the shoulder. What? Don't make Sana take Mariam to the party. No, says Ami. No, I say. Ami thinks for a moment, then says, okay, so Sana gets to go by herself. After the party, I hear a knock on my door. What do you want? I ask Sana. Here. She hands me a big green lollipop. This is for you. Thanks, I say. After that, we're friends. Now, one of the things people always ask me is, okay, is the whole story true? And the thing is, everything in the story is true except for one thing. When you're writing a story, you can change things to make the story better. And there is one major thing I changed. Besides, like I changed my sister's name to Rabina because when you're naming characters, choose the names are important. And Bushra is a little bit harder to read than Rabina, for one thing. Plus, Rabina sounds like Ruby, and rubies are red. So that's why I called her Rabina in the story. But there is something really major that I changed. That's what happened. And in fact, like I said, for 10 years, I was telling this story from my point of view. And one time I was at a bookstore and I told the story in front of my sister Bushra, my older sister. That's Bushra in the audience. Okay, that's her. That's her. She's watching me tell the story. I was telling the story there, and as I was telling Big Red Lollipop, my sister was laughing louder than everybody else. And at the end, I was really nervous because I thought, oh, she's going to know what I changed. And sure enough, at the end, she knew exactly what I changed. She came up to me and she said, wait a minute. You never gave me that big green lollipop. I said, yeah, I know, but I should have. I actually ate the green one too, but I should have given it to her. Why didn't I give it to her? I should have. But the thing is, I grew up really poor. So you got a lollipop, you ate it. We didn't get a lot of treats. So what I did was I gave my sister, Bushra, I gave her the story. Okay. Big Red Lollipop, she is the hero. She is the everyday hero. I'm the bad guy. I gave her the story. And a story lasts a lot longer than a big red lollipop. And I kind of tried to make it up for her, to her. I wanted to atone for my bad behavior as a child. And it's so funny because this is the only time I ever told the story in front of my sister Bushra. And isn't it funny that I'm wearing red and she's wearing green? It's like I'm the red lollipop and she's like the green lollipop. Okay. Now, so that's the story behind Big Red Lollipop. And like I said, it won both awards in America for Best Picture Book Story. And it was chosen by the New York Public Library as one of the 100 greatest children's books in the last 100 years. I was the only Muslim woman on that list. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up to the questions. We have time for the questions now. Okay, let's Rochelle, you can moderate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Roxana, for your great discussion and explanation of your beautiful, moving and funny stories. I found your explanation of the relationship between the illustrations and the text and also the different point of views that a story can take. Really, really interesting. And also the one point in the Big Red Lollipop of the intercultural aspect of what to do when you're invited to a party, and could identify with that as a young mother, new mother in Germany, having to get to know the different rules that have to do with sort of raising children in a country. I mean, being a parent is a journey anyway, but then doing it in a new country is even more complicated. So now, as you say, we've got time for questions, for comments, and I'd like to please ask everyone to put your comments or questions either in the question and answer part of the webinar, or also in the chat. And we can give you a couple of minutes now to write the questions, and I'll read them, and then we can answer them. Okay.
Well, Hannah has a story. Has a question here. She said, "My question is, who is the famous writer who inspired me a lot in Canada?" Oh, that's a really good question. Actually, I'll tell you the truth. When I was growing up, the Canadian book industry was in its infancy, and most of the stories that we received came to us from America and from England. Those were the giants in terms of literature that I grew up reading. I have so many that I loved. I have a very eclectic taste. I read all kinds of books. I remember loving the historical fiction of Geoffrey Trees from England. He had such swashbuckling adventure stories from the history and everything. Q for Treason, I loved it. My sister Busher introduced it to me, and we loved that story. It's set in Elizabethan England. It's so good. It was so good. Let's see. And growing up, I read. I started looking for the golden stickers on the books of Newbery Award winners. So I gravitated, because I thought if it has that sticker on there, it means somebody really liked it. Okay. And so I would read some of the ones that I loved were like Catherine Patterson's Jacob Have I Loved. I loved The Witch of Blackbird Pond, which is about the Salem witch trials in it's historical fiction too. Oh man, there were so many. And my all-time favorites, there's two that are my all-time favorite books. One is The Lord of the Rings. I really think The Lord of the Rings is magnificent. I want to write something at that level, and I'm working on some stuff that might be coming close. We'll see. That, and then also there's Watership Down. Oh my gosh, Watership Down. It's incredible. I've probably read it as many times as I've read Lord of the Rings. And it's just a beautiful story about leadership. And I made my son read it, and I'm trying to get my grandkids to read it because it's just an incredible book. It's just an incredible book. It's very long-winded, and it was written in the 70s. And in the 70s, you'll find that children's literature was a lot more verbose, and the language was a lot higher. But I mean, I read The Witch of Blackbird Pond to my granddaughters, and they absolutely loved it. It was hard for them to understand the English at first, but I told them to let the language just wash over you. You'll get what it's saying after a while, and they loved it. Absolutely loved it. It also increases. Oh, what advice do I have for increasing one's vocabulary? That's the advice, actually. In fact, when I was reading it to my granddaughter, I was reading them The Witch of Blackbird Pond. And the language, like I said, the language is from the 70s. It's really high. And what you'll find is that just expose them to the language. The first instinct of a child or a reader is to tense up. I don't understand these words. I don't understand. I never understood a lot of the words that I was reading. I was an ESL student, but I just went along, and you kind of absorb the meaning from the context of the sentence. Just relax and go for the ride. You'll absorb the meaning of the words as you go along. And the more you read, the more you'll be exposed to vocabulary. And the funny thing is my 15-year-old granddaughter, she is a voracious reader. And many times she will use the word in the right context, in the right meaning, but she'll mispronounce it, and that's because she learned it from reading. I used to do that too, and it's a bit embarrassing, but it shouldn't be, because anytime a person mispronounces a word, it's because they learned it from reading, and you don't penalize them for that. It just means that they're a voracious reader. So in terms of even exposing the children to the vocabulary, if you read them stories that have difficult vocabulary, but you're reading it to them so that they're not having to do the hard work of decoding them, they will get exposed to deeper stories that are just, it'll blow them away. I mean, The Witch of Blackbird Pond, it gets so tense, it's so dramatic, it's such a good book. It's excellent, it's an excellent book. So that's what you do. The same thing could be said even in terms of my young adult novel, Wanting More. It has Muslim terms in it, it has Pashto terms in it, because it's set in Afghanistan. But when you're reading it, yeah, there's a glossary in the back, but don't bother, just let it flow over you. It doesn't really matter. Even the word inshallah, just let it flow over you. You'll figure out what it means. You'll figure it out. And because when foreigners and other cultures are reading English literature, we don't let the English idiosyncrasies stop us from enjoying the story. And that's what you need to do. Just let it wash over you, and that way you'll acquire the words, the vocabulary, you'll acquire it without even trying too hard. And as a result, it's funny because I have a pretty high vocabulary because of all the reading I've done. But I will use the word that is the right word, even if it's a little bit more precise. That's what I tend to do. What
Hello,
advice?
Roxanna. I've got a question, but before that, I want to say, my goodness, what an amazing session you have delivered. I've been stitches. I've never enjoyed myself so much. You've taken me back to those years. You are a true natural storyteller, mashallah. It's a real gift. Loved your books, amazing books, and the way you cover the culture, the place, Lahore, all of that jumped out. And this amazing story of your family, it's absolutely brilliant. And I know if other people could speak, they would be saying exactly the same here.
Well,
So
thank you.
I'm just so
I've been
glad
at
to
this for a
invite
long
you.
time.
You are amazing woman. And then before I forget, many, many congratulations for winning those awards. That true is brilliant. And the illustrator, she too has done a fantastic job. Absolutely brought the whole thing to life. So, I'm just over the moon, and I'm so glad that we are featuring you in our festival for this year, and my friends and colleagues, and they're all enjoying it too. So my question here as a fellow author is, what got you into writing, and why the children's book? It's not easy to write children's books. It's a real gift. So
Yeah.
what got you into this world of writing?
Good question. It's the same thing that keeps me writing, even despite all of the rejections and the difficulties that come along the way. What got me into writing, first of all, what I didn't say in the introduction that Raphael quoted is that not only was I bullied, I came very close to giving up. I came very close to suicide when I was a kid because it was that bad. The bullying and the racism was that bad. The books that I read and my faith, my Muslim faith, those were the things that kept me going. The books that I read. When I was reading books, I could be someone else. I could escape my life. I could escape the torment. So when I grew up, when I was in grade 8, I had a teacher who was the first person who ever told me that I could be a writer. And I thought, I can't be a writer. I'm brown. White writers are white people, and they're from England and America. But I started to dream about it. And now the thing is, I wrote a story when I was about 16. When I was 16, I wrote my first book. I actually finished a story. It was a picture book about a worm named Waldo. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Oh,
and I sent it out to a publisher to try to get it published, and it was rejected. And I thought, see, I can't be an author. And I thought I should be sensible and become a chemist because I love science as well. I loved math, and so I graduated in maths and sciences because I thought I can't be an author. It's too public. I'm brown, authors are white people. So when that didn't work, I graduated at the top of my class but I was the last person to get a job. And the job was only for 10 cents more than minimum wage. And it was for very little money. It wasn't worth it. So I stayed home when my oldest daughter was born. I stayed home. By this time I was married, and my oldest daughter was born. And I stayed home, and I thought, let me just take care of her. And but I couldn't stop. I had to write. Mr. Bacote, my teacher, was right. I am a writer. So I started writing songs and stories. So, and then the thing is that um, when all of this stuff happened, there's been a lot of literary attacks on Muslims. And we needed to tell our stories. I saw this years and years ago, and I thought, let me try to tell stories to show people our humanity, that we are just like everybody else. I mean, when I was reading Anne of Green Gables, I had aunts, just like aunts that she was talking about in the story. They were exactly the same, just a different culture. And I thought, I need to write stories that humanize us. And the need for that is even greater now, because it's almost like it's open season on Muslims. Like they're being slaughtered from the Uyghurs to the Rohingya, all over the world. We're being slaughtered and stuff. So what I try to do, I take my love of stories. I try to write the best stories I can. And all of my stories, I have worked incredibly hard on each one of them. They're so different. And the projects that I'm working on right now, they blow these things out of the water. They're really good. Oh, anyways, that's me talking, but the projects I'm working on right now are so exciting to me. I'm so proud of them, but I'm always trying to up my game. So basically, those are the two things. I love stories. Stories kept me going. So I try to write stories that will keep other kids going. And kids literature is the hardest thing to write, because you can't go off on tangents. You can't become verbose. You can't indulge your ego. You just have to stick to the story, because kids have a very short attention, but they don't put up with a lot of nonsense. So you have to get to the story, and you have to write as best you can. But also, I'm branching up now. It depends on the story. The story that I'm writing, if it's a picture book, or if it's a young adult, or now even I'm working on an adult novel. It just depends on the story. So you have to write the story according to who the audience is and who would best appreciate the story. So there, all of those factors come into the story, and it's about pushing myself in what I'm writing, and writing something that I would love to read.
Thank you so much for that reply. We have one last question in the question and answer section, and it reads, hello, can you kindly suggest some good, neat books for a 12-year-old avid reader? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, good, what kind of books?
Good and neat books. Good, neat books.
Neat books?
I think just really good books.
Oh, neat. Okay, neat as in nice, like swell.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, definitely for a 12-year-old reader. Read this. This is my young adult book, Wanting More, set in Afghanistan, based on a true story. To me, this story is better than Big Red Lollipop. Big Red Lollipop is a very funny story. This one is very serious and sad, but this one was up for about 14 different awards around the world. It's been published all over the world, in China, Japan, India, Sharjah, Australia, Italy, all over the world. It's been published. It's based on a true story. It's about a girl whose mother dies during the war in Afghanistan. Her father gets remarried. Stepmother doesn't want her. So the father takes her to the marketplace, and he leaves her there. And she ended up in an orphanage that I put a library in with the proceeds of one of my other books. There's this book. I also have other books that I would recommend in terms of neat stories. Oh, there's so many. For a 12-year-old, Watership Down. Read that book. Oh, it's so good. I can't rave enough about Watership Down. I really love that book. The first half is a bit of a slog, but the stakes of the story, oh, it's so good. Yes, it's about rabbits, and it's a stupid title, but it's a really good book. What other books would I recommend for a 12-year-old? There's one I loved called Banner in the Sky. It was by James Ramsey Ellman. It was also for a Newbery. It was up for a Newbery honor, and it's set in Switzerland, and it's about a boy named Rudy Matt who wants to climb the Citadel, which is an unclimbed mountain. It's such a good story. I mean, I'll never climb a mountain, but that's what you can do with a book. You can go places you would never really go in yourself. I am much too fond of my comforts to ever try to climb a mountain. But if you like, like especially for a boy, it's a really good book for a boy because it's physical. It's got sports. Oh, that's right. The language is a bit high. I mean, I read it to my grandson at the time. He loved it. In terms of more modern books, when you're trying to think of a book, your mind just kind of goes blank. So I can't think of it right now, but there's a lot of different really books. I would highly recommend, Walter Dean Myers. His book Monster is amazing. It blew me away. Like as you become an author and you start reading books as an author, it takes a lot to really impress you. And Walter Dean Myers' Monster blew me away. And because once you start writing, you can see all the tricks that the author is using to tell the story. You can see kind of like the bones and the skeleton. It's like trying to admire a pretty lady, but you can see the skeleton. It takes a lot to really, really see through all of that and appreciate the whole picture. But Monster by Walter Dean Myers is really, really good. It's a really good book. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Roxana. You've inspired us on so many different levels. And thank you to everyone who asked questions as well. Before we finish, though, we do have one more point. So I'd also like to introduce you to a guest who will be our speaker on Tuesday evening, inshallah. So Ibrahim Iqbal went blind at the age of 11 and then went on to become an independent chef. And on Tuesday evening, he'll be sharing his experience with us, as well as his signature Southern Asian dishes. But before I talk too much, I'd like to hand over to Ibrahim so he can tell you a little bit more. Thank you.
My name's Ibrahim. I'm 23. I'm from Birmingham. And on Tuesday at 6 p.m, I'm going to be doing a talk about my story and my journey. So I'll tell you a little bit about it now. So I was born fully sighted, but then when I was in my teenage years, I began to lose my eyesight. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was totally blind. And so I'm going to be talking a bit about my journey, and how I found a passion through cooking and how cooking gave me something to go by. And now I have my own platform, alhamdulillah, I have my own platform on Instagram, which is called The Blind Chef. And I show everyone how not my disability. I actually say disability doesn't mean inability. And because through cooking and through my passion of cooking, I get to show the world how I haven't let my disability stop me from being who I am. So yeah. Hopefully I'll see you all on Tuesday at my event.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Absolutely can't wait for your session. It's been really an inspirational journey for you. And mashallah, I know everybody's going to join for that event. Thank you, Rukhsana, my goodness, all the way from Toronto. What an amazing, lovely book event we had. I've said everything I wanted to say earlier. Thank you to Rafael for joining us from Germany, for being part of MACFEST, and you did a brilliant job in hosting. Thank you to Icarus, who's taken over from Steve for hosting, and Mariam and the rest of my team. So everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. See you on Tuesday, inshallah, if you can make it.